All right, I think we can go ahead and start. Um, cool. All right, guys. So it looks like I'm just going through the list here. It looks like everybody in attendance I pretty much know. So that's pretty much that's good. I know pretty much everybody here. I think everyone knows my background. So I'll uh, I'll skip the intro slides. Let me just make sure I share my screen here. All right, so I am recording. But feel free to go ahead, blast out any questions. I mean, I'm gonna some stuff here I may edit. Um, so feel free. I mean, I'm not gonna some stuff that I'm gonna show here tonight. Actually, I might have to cut out in the recording just because I'm showing some kind of company sensitive stuff here. So um, I'm not. But for the most part, I'm gonna record the whole thing, right? Uh, but anyway, before I do that, everyone can see my screen. Yes, let me blow this up here.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, beautiful. All right. So I'm just gonna jump to the bottom. I mean, you guys know me already. Blah blah blah. Okay. Disclaimer. So this is not even though this is an Arista ACE labbing event. This is in no way endorsed by Arista. So everything I'm doing here tonight is just because basically they told me you gotta take the test and yeah. So this is where it all came out from, right? I have to pass the test. We just recently came out with a new certification series, and so because of that, it makes sense for me to kind of show it to you guys as well, and it this way, any kind of questions they may throw at me at the test, hopefully, maybe one of you guys kind of jog my memory or or something to that effect. So this way, it's helpful for everybody. Um, but before I kind of go into that, I just want to go through a couple things, and let me see if I could blow this up here. A couple things here. Actually, had a study for the test. If anyone here is interested, or just maybe you guys want to actually get more into this. So there's only a couple. Being that the ACE certification exam is really new. There's only a few places that you can really go to. A majority of the stuff that you're going to go to is actually going to be the white papers and the TOI docs, which I'll go into in a second. Um, there is a book, not books, a book which is this guy right here, the Arista Warriors. That's by Gary Donahue. It's a few years old. I think it came out like in 2011 or 2012 or something. But if anyone wants to kind of get their hands wet or feet wet with it, I will highly recommend this book. It's a really easy read. It's straightforward. It doesn't take too long um, to actually go over. We also have the Arista has an official class as well. It's on the pricey side. It's like 2 or 3K. That's why you know I think for the most part most of us here are kind of self-studiers. But it is an option out there that kind of covers a lot of the stuff, and that's kind of what I'm going to base tonight on is that official course. I have taken it, so this way hopefully the stuff that I kind of memorized and I do have a couple of the books here, so I can kind of recreate a lot of the stuff for you guys. Um, the white paper's already talked about, so I'm going to also go over the Arista site, show you guys where to get certain documents, and just, I mean, being that we've probably been used to like the Cisco.com site for so many years, to go to a brand new site and start from scratch is a little annoying. At least it was for me. So I'll show you guys exactly where to find the docs you're looking for. Also the real gear. So for the most part, we probably don't have the real gear. This isn't like the Aristas, if you guys had a chance to check eBay, they're not exactly like 30, 50, $60 a switch. I think the cheapest switch I found on eBay was like 2 grand. Um, so uh, it is on the pricey side. So unless you have it at your job, you're not going to have it. But the nice thing is what Arista offered was a virtual EOS. So if Cisco has their iOS or the Nexus OS. Arista has their EOS, their extensible operating system, and then we just have a V in front of it because it's virtual. The good thing with this though, unlike I guess you could say the Cisco's and the Junipers of the world, so the Arista has one single image across all their switches. So unlike juggling iOS XR, XE, iOS, CatOS, if it's a really older switch, Arista has a single image. That's it. So it makes it really simple if you're trying to study for or just kind of lab with it and play with it. And I'll go over that tonight also. And then towards the end, I just want to I mean, this bullet point kind of doesn't. This is an importance for everybody, here tonight. and being that I know everybody here in the room, I've told this many times to everybody here, but just to say it one more time, Linux and Python importance. It's super important, especially when you and as we get into the labs, you'll see as we get into the Arista world, and even Cisco's kind of going down, and Juniper's going down this path as well. It's not just an Arista thing. You'll notice that everything's being Python and Linux based, right? So a lot of the DevOps and SDN technologies are based off of Linux and also Python as well. So in the test also, there's a very small section there's called eAPI, which we'll go over as well. Luckily, it's a small section, so it doesn't, there's not a lot of examples, but um, it's a good way to kind of get your feet wet, at least, to mess with the eAPI or eAPI calls in general. The nice thing with the real gear and the virtual gear, and which I'll show you guys also tonight, is that we also have a command API page. So it's like a GUI that you guys can push commands to, and you can get like a JSON API reply back to your console, right? So this way you can kind of see if you typed in show version or show run or show LLDP neighbors, what would that output look like? And I'll also show you guys quickly the GitHub page too, where you can, now that I've been studying Python for about a year, part-time, on and off. A lot of what I've been learning is on GitHub. So you can only, and this is something that's going to, in the next quarter or two, I'm going to start putting more Linux and Python meetups for the guys. One thing that I'm going to be basing a lot of this stuff off of is the scripts that I find off of GitHub, right? Um, All right, that's the Arista Warrior book. The official class. So this is something that's also once again I said an option. It's like $3,300, so it is a bit pricey, but it is another option that you guys do have. So the real gear. So there is a bunch of switches. So Arista, they don't do firewalls, they don't do load balancers. They just do layer 2, layer 3 switching. That's it. And in the picture on the top there, you can see there are a couple different models. And this is the same thing as the Cisco's, right? So you have your fixed switches, your 1RU and 2RU switches, and then you also have your chassis, right? So you have your 7300 series and 7500 series chassis. Aside from that, that's all we have. Instead of being green or having the Cisco logo on it, it has the Arista logo on it, but it's still almost like a Cisco device. And even when I go into meetings, sometimes I'll reference Cisco a lot because it's 80 to 90% of the configuration. And once we get into the lab, you guys will see it's a lot of it is the same. You could even copy, I would say, depending on what type of configuration you have, you could probably copy the whole show run onto an Arista switch. But on the bottom, so we have the real gear, but also at the bottom. So if you want to go to this section, so you would go to arista.com, of course, and then under home support, and I did a snapshot of this. So you can go home support and software downloads. You're gonna have to create a free login. So we do ask you for that. I guess to track, what you download or whatever. But and in there you'll see a folder called the VEOS. You're gonna need two pieces. And actually, Humphrey from the Router Gods group made a good video on how to set up a VEOS. I think Anuj posted that up in the Slack room. There is a video out there of how to set up. It's not as straightforward as maybe like a GNS3 or like what we're used to. You'll need two pieces. There's a ISO file, which I'm assuming you guys did already. I posted a link in the meetup details of how to set this topology up. So I'm not going to spend time with that tonight, just to kind of, for the interest of time here. We only got about like 2 hours. But we do have the ISO here, and you'll also want the VMDK file. As of right now, the latest is 4.14.9. So and if you're looking for the code, right? So actually, let me show you guys. Instead of me sitting here talking to a PowerPoint. Let me do arista.com. All right, so here's the page. So for that, you'll go to support, software downloads. You'll make your free account. In this case, I have a company account, right? And then you'll get to this page. Scroll down to the bottom, and this is something that Humphrey goes in his video as well. You won't have all these other folders here, but you'll have the VEOS folder that's free for everybody, and you'll want to pull out the A-boot ISO. So when you think of A-boot, think of it as the ROM-on It's the initialization to actually load the bin image, or in our case, we don't call it bin image, we call it software. um, I forget what the I stands for, but we call it a SWIG or SWI. It's pretty much, think of bin to SWIG. It's the same concept. Um, so you load up the ISO file, and the ISO file in turn will load this VMDK file to load up the image. It's about the same size as I believe a CSR 1K. You'll need at least 2 gigs of RAM to run this. So if you're gonna spin up 3 VMs, you'll want at least 6 gigs of RAM. Um, so that's where you get that in the VUS image. So for the white papers, so unfortunately, minus the book, there's no official Cisco press book or Arista press book or whatever press book. It just doesn't exist right now, being that it's very, very, very new. Um, so in the same thing that I did, so if you guys took a look at my meetup page about a year or so ago, or a year or two ago, I made a CCNA data center video series, and at that time there was no books either. So what basically, unfortunately, you have to kind of do the grunt work at that point, which is basically going through the white papers. The nice thing with the Aristas, though, compared to the Cisco's, is that the white papers are very straightforward. They're not hundreds of pages long. I think the longest I read was like 80 pages. So they're very straightforward, pretty quick reads. The only thing is that sometimes they don't go into as much detail as you like, but for the most part, they go over they hit the high points of what you need to do in order to configure, let's say, LANs or DANs or VM Tracer, which we're going to get into tonight. But the product quick start guides, for that you can go to, and I'll bring this up here. Once again, going back to the Arista site, you can go to solutions. Actually, no, sorry, support, product documentation, and this is going to be like the landing page for a lot of the stuff that we do here. So I'll go over here the configuration guide. This is going to be, being that we have one image across all the switches, you basically just need one configuration guide for everything. On the bottom here, we also have supported features, Arista features. I'll open new tabs for these guys here. The licensing structure is here, which they'll probably test you on also if you're going to take the exam. Our licensing, which is very, very easy. There's only 3 licenses. Um, this is even better when I first read into this, because I remember when I was reading one of the latest Cisco ASA books, the 3rd edition. I forget what's called, Fundamentals of ASA or something. There must have literally been, I think like 5 or 10 pages of just the different licensing that you can put on the ASA. So the nice thing with the Aristas, being that I'm talking about the licensing, there's a new Cloud Vision licensing, but for the exam you don't have to worry about that. On the left here, you'll see the traditional. So there's 3 licenses: the E, V, and the Z, and you can kind of see here what features you get. A lot of this stuff is Arista specific. So V is going to be your virtualization. So you get your VM Tracer feature, which we'll go over tonight. You'll also get your VXLAN license. You'll get that all here as well. E is going to be basically anything layer 3. So if you want to do any kind of OSPF or BGP, that's going to live in this license, or multicast. And then you have the Z license. I forget what the Z stands for, but we do have the zero touch provisioning, which is the ZTP, which is, when you guys see this part, you guys are really going to love this. I mean, this is pretty much pixie boot of an Arista switch. Latency analyzer, the DANs, the APIs. We'll get into some of this stuff here. But that's it. I mean, there's some more fine-tuned details down here, but that's pretty much it. That's all the licensing we have, just 3 main licenses. Of course, you have the base, right? So this is like your basic, just like layer 1, layer 2 stuff, nothing crazy here. But one of the pros with the Arista is that there's no license file. There's no activation, right? So if you go onto a switch, you can enable all this stuff here. The only thing is the licensing is more of a, if you need support from Arista's TAC, or we just call it TAC, they're going to say, hey, listen, you know what, we'll help you this time, but you're going to need a license if we're going to help you troubleshoot, OSPF or ZTP or something. Oh, yeah, so let me go into, oops. So let me go into also the supported features here. So one thing that's pretty nice here is that you can kind of see in like a 1 page. So we have all the different models that we have here, right? And don't worry too much about the models. I mean, this stuff comes in time. What what model does what, but like we all know, the 6500, the 4500 for the Cisco's, and the 2K, 5K, 7K, 9K. We have a similar model here, but point being is that you can see here, depending on the platform, we do support some features versus the other. So if you want to kind of take a high level view of that, you can see that here, if that platform does support it. The other thing too is that you want to keep in mind is that for the images, and I'll go to software downloads, and if I want to do active releases, so the latest and greatest we have right now is 4.15. One thing to note though with 4.15 is that you'll notice there's an F, and I can't really highlight it, but you guys see. So there's an F at the end of all these releases. F for the Arista stand for feature. All right, feature meaning that it's addition to the code. So if you wanted to look, for example, let's see, let me pull it the latest 4.15.3, and if I do a RN, you'll see RN here, and maybe we could have done a better job of kind of making this obvious, but this is RN stands for release notes. All right, so if I click on here, you can see the release notes for this particular image. Um, And if this loads, here we go. So this is going to be basically the add-ons or the additions that we put on this code. So if you needed a bug fixed, or if you needed there was a certain caveat, or you wanted some kind of restriction or something, or whatever, you would do it here, or you would say, hey, listen, you know what, for my and I'm just taking here, I want let's see, the multiple span tree PVST interop, then you will get this particular image because this release note or this image allows you for that functionality, right? So sometimes you gotta kind of dive into this here, but that's the F, right? Um, but if you notice here, there's no M, right? So we have two main images. We have the F, which is going to be the feature releases, and then we have the 4.14, which is the most stable release that we have right now. And you can see, you notice here, there's a lot. I mean, there's some F's down here, but there's a lot of M's. Stands for a maintenance release, and this is going to be basically the latest fixed or latest stable release. If you're looking for like a core switch or a spine switch, we usually recommend that customers run the M release or the maintenance release. And this has the same deal too, right? So if you blow this up, you'll get the image here, right? And you'll also have the release notes here as well. Just in case, once again, if there's any kind of bug fixes or new features that have been added, you'll see that, you'll see those notes added there. All right, so let me blow. All right, so you have 4.14.10. This came out about a month or two ago, right? And the same deal here, right? So these are new platforms. You can see like the model the model numbers of which image this will take, right? And you'll come down here, you can see this new layer 3 features, and you can see like a list here of that. All right. Let's see what else. Okay, so quick start guide. Oh, let me go through the quick start guide real quick. Product documentation. Did I have that here? No. All right. Oh, here's the manual, by the way, too. Nothing crazy here. Basically, how do you start up a switch? Command line, AAA, how to boot the switch, upgrading, downgrading it, port channels, LLDP, a lot of stuff that we're very familiar with the Cisco's. Let me get into the quick start guide. I believe that's under. Okay, so you got to go under hardware. Of course, depending on the platform you have. So let's say like a 7010 model, for example. You can see here basically the quick start guide. The same, once again, same things at the Cisco, how to take it out of the box, how to install it. One other thing too that I want to mention with the Aristas that make it different from the Cisco is that we, depending on the model of the switch, and most of these have it, we have hot swappable, of course, power supplies. I mean, everybody has that, right? But we also have hot swappable fans. And one cool thing with this is that they're actually color coded. So if I blow this up a little bit, I'll make it really big. You can see here on the back, right in the middle, this is going to be your fan tray. And what's nice with this is that, and unfortunately I'm not in front of you guys, so I could show you. But there's actually, you can pull this out, flip it around. So like this little tab will flip to this side and cover the blue, and will expose the red coloring. And this is probably will be an exam question, which is why I'm bringing this up, is because one thing that you'll notice is that you can change the airflow, so you can either do back to front or front to back on the fly. Now, this is pretty important, especially in data centers, because a lot of the times you'll have your hot and cold aisles. I believe the Cisco designed certification track talks about this, like a hot cold aisle. So you can do either, back to front, which is the actually no, I'm sorry, the back to front is the red. The red, you're gonna have the air shooting out from the back. So you have like this little back over here, and you'll feel and you really could feel it. Like if you put your hand over it, you'll feel the hot air coming out. If you flip the fan around, exposing the blue, we also have, and I don't think there's a picture here. Let me see how to mount it. Let's see. Come on, come on. I talked about the fan. All right, so you can kind of see it here in this picture here. You can see here airflow vents, intake or exhaust. So you can see on the front here, you also have fans. You'll feel if you put your hand in front of the switch, you'll feel the hot air coming out from the front of the switch, which is nice. All right, and there was this one picture here that I wanted to show you guys here. So when you actually physically connect a console cable, the same way we connect to any regular Cisco switch. You have your USB to serial cable. You could even use the same blue console cable that you use for the Cisco's. That's what I use. But there's two differences with the Aristas. One is you'll notice the ports. We ship with two, so you're gonna have one as a console port, and these two little circles here. This specifies the console port, and we also have an out of band, out of the box. Out of the box, all the switches come with a out of band management port. So it's not like you have to designate one to be a management port. You have one already, and that you see these three dots. That means that this is a management port on your switch. Let's see, what else can I show you guys? US configuration, we went through that already. Transfer of information. Okay, so let me show you guys this here as well. Once again, product documentation, software downloads, and I don't know why they put it here. They maybe could have named it a little bit better, but if you click on the TOI tab over here, you can see a transfer of information. If you want more details for a particular release, so like for example, let's say Dan's down here, or the latest features that have been added to 4.14, if I click on this guy, and let him load for a second. Now these documents are a couple hundred pages long, unlike the other ones. Like you see here, this one's about 335 pages. This goes into the details, a lot more details than the configuration guide. But the nice thing with this is that it actually tells you what each specific feature will do. So for example, if I want to know more about storm control on a 7500, I will come here to learn more about that. So I can storm control. Let me go down to that section. All right, so for this particular platform running this particular image, this is how storm control works. And they'll show you how to configure it. Here are the limitations. And they'll go into more details with that was a short chapter, but you guys get the point here. You can kind of see more detailed examples and kind of caveats and operation for these particular features here, right? Oh, this is good. Transceivers and cables. So that's one thing that you'll notice with the Aristas that I think actually does a little bit better of a job than Cisco in terms of how to document it. So if I go back once again to product documentation, I can just click over here. And actually, no, I'm sorry. Let me go to products and transceivers and cables. And you can see here, but I kind of like this picture, this tab here, just because it's kind of easy on the eyes, I think. So you can see here, you just have a kind of high level view of all the different optics, all the different cables. the type, right? The standard. So is it 100 gig, 40 gig? Is it QSFP? Is it CFP2? Is it QSFP 100? Is it SFP? Is it LC? Is it a DAC cable? Which, by the way, DAC is basically the Twin-X cable, direct attached. I forget the C stands for, but it's direct attached something. Basically, that's our Cisco Twin-X cable, very similar to that. And you can see once again, which model is compatible with which type of cable and optic. So this is a nice cheat sheet right here. Just take a look at. I'm sure I'm going to get test questions on this. So I'm trying to memorize this as best I can. This we went over already. Licensing we went over already. EOS Central. Okay, so let me get into the EOS Central. For that, there's actually a tab just dedicated to it. So this is the basically think of it as the official Arista forum. Just like you have like the Cisco learning forums. The Arista isn't that big yet. I believe it's just a single forum or just a couple different categories here. But if you want to any kind of specific information, maybe if somebody posted a question here, like VXLAN, for example, is a very hot topic right now. You can search for any type of VXLAN posts or questions. So you can see, let's see, Anoop, for example, posts up a VXLAN routing blog post. And you can see here some configuration. This is how you configure ARP, and he goes to the explanation, a couple different show commands here. So this is nice. Just once again, this is kind of like blog posts that add on to what the white papers can give you. And then finally, I just want to go through 2 pages here on off of GitHub. So one is the official GitHub page for Arista Networks. Once again, once you guys are starting to get more into Python and to Linux, you can kind of pull a couple different pre-made scripts here. So for example, I'm just clicking on a random one here, an Ansible script here. It goes through the installation, what it does. Here's the actual argument or the keyword, and then basically what each argument and which type of command and what they do, right? Now I'm not going to get into this because this is way above the scope of today's talk, but I just wanted to show you guys that is there. And also the Cisco's and Junipers and HPs of the world, they have the same thing too. It's not just an Arista thing. And also one more thing before I get into the lab, there is if there's any Linux guys in the room today, you guys might be familiar with Packer. Basically what you can do with Packer is you can spin up using VirtualBox. And this is very Linux friendly, so if you're doing any kind of troubleshooting, which I had to do to get this up and running, you didn't need to get into Linux and run this off Ubuntu. But basically what you can do is running this script, this shell script here, so you can git clone, you can download this script from Git. And then here you can do basically run a Python script to build using VirtualBox. Maybe you want to run it using in VMware. There's no, I haven't tried this with VM Workstation yet. I just did it with VirtualBox just because it's much easier. But basically, it'll build this entire topology that you're seeing here for you without you having to kind of go into the different, VM nets and try to configure it to make it look like they're directly connected to each other. It's just a nice way to build a box or build a small topology on the fly without you having to kind of manually do it, right? So this is something that you can definitely take a look at to kind of mess with. All right. Is any questions before I jump into the lab or?
Uh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is like the turnaround time for the stable version releases?
Good question. So there's actually and then let's see if I can remember where it is. I want to say we do have something in here that shows that. EOS lifecycle here. So I click on this guy. So this page here shows the life cycle, right? And the stuff that I showed you guys before here, like the F is the feature release, the M is the maintenance release. So you can see And unfortunately, you can't blow this up. But you can see here basically the releases we have right now. Once again, the latest. Let me try to zoom into this so you guys can see better. Latest being the 4.15. It was initially released earlier this year, and it's I believe for 30 months. So once a image gets released, it's support for 30 months. Once it becomes like end of life or end of support, and then if you come up here, and unfortunately I can't blow this up more, but you can see here that you have engineering support for the first 18 months. So this is like the M and the F releases. And then once we hit that 18-month or year and a half mark, it'll go into a 12-month or a 1 year of tax support only. Like we're not going to actively add to that particular image. We're just going to support it. But once we get to that 30-month mark, it's end of support. And of course, then we're going to make you try to upgrade to the latest version, right? So if you're going to go down here, and if you're running EOS 4.12, as of today, it's end of support, and as of November 15th, right? Does
Right.
yeah, does that answer your question right there, Maewa?
Yeah, it did. It did. I was actually looking for that table, the life cycle you just showed. That was really what I was looking for. Thanks.
Okay, great, great.
Wait, you did mention in the exam that for the exam you're required to memorize all the supported NIC cards and cables. Did I hear you right on that?
So I'm believing so. I'm not 100% positive. Unfortunately, the test
Wow,
being as new as it is, um,
that's a lot. That's a lot of them.
yeah, I don't think they're going to be nitpicky. They may say something like, on a 7280, will it take, RJ45 ports? And I know for a fact that the 7280 doesn't, as you can see here, it doesn't take the RJ45 ports. It just, I'm at a slight advantage, I guess, versus someone who doesn't work with Arista, being that, I've indirectly memorized a lot of this stuff already. Um, I mean, for all I know, there may be no question based on this, right? But I'm not gonna. They gave me one free shot, and if I fail it, then it might be hard for them to pay for another one. That's the only reason I just want to give you guys all, and even myself, I want to give myself all the information I can, um, just to make sure that I don't miss something.
All right. And how much is the exam?
Right now it's 295, which is, if I remember correctly, the same as a Cisco CCNA.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, yeah, I remember you mentioned it. Sorry.
Yeah, so if I go, you guys memorize my password here. This will be cut out from the video. um,
Getting to know you, getting to
yeah,
know all about you.
let's see. Yeah, I feel so. I've taken a lot of stupid tests. I gave them a lot of money, but uh, proctored exams. So let's say CCNA. I don't even know what they call it anymore. Here we go. English. So it's 295. The Arista is the same one right now too. It's just the same price. So cool. All right, so let me jump into the lab here because I'm seeing we're at 9:40. So this is a high level, and I'm taking this agenda here based off of, from what I've been told, the test is based off of the official class. So luckily, I did take it. So if I go to training, and if I just scroll, so this is the test, right? If you want to register, you can go right ahead. But if you go towards the bottom here, you can see the course syllabus, and you have the hardware overview. This is why I'm wondering if I need to. I mean, it doesn't specifically say it here, but I'd rather just kind of try to memorize, or at least have a high level of what type of transceivers or what type of optics we do take. This is important here actually as well. The MXP ports. This is something that, as far as I know, the Cisco track doesn't talk about. So this, if you want this particular document, just Google Arista MXP, and you can see here the different type of, and this is, once again, you have your picture down here, but this is, going above and beyond tonight's talk. But when you get into data center designs, you're gonna get these cabinets or these cassettes, and this is all fiber, right? Um, So you'll have these are the actual cables. So the copper cables like the RJ45. Once you get to 40 gig and 100 gig, which is basically Arista's bread and butter, we don't talk about copper anymore. We don't talk about RJ45. We talk about only in terms of fiber, right? So you have different type of connectors here, right? So this is for your QSFP, your MXP, your CFP2, your SFP. I mean, you guys can shout out to me if you guys, uh, I mean, the guys who've recently taken any recent Cisco exams, if they talk about any of these type of ports. As far as I know, they don't, but then again, it's been a while since I've taken a Cisco exam. But these are type of connectors. You'll have also breakout cables as well, which they don't have in this particular document, but you'll have cassettes also. So when you actually break the fiber out, you'll get each strand will be put in here. So you have, let's say, 1 to 12. A cassette can hold, I believe, 24 strands of fiber. And then based on that, you would then connect your fiber cables here. I want to see if there's anything else here. It's just a blog post here. That's just a data sheet. So once again, I mean, there's really no Cisco Press book out there or Arista Press book out there. A lot of this stuff is kind of scattered around. Why, um, like why 40 gig is what makes a 40 gig strand, which you can kind of see here the different type of form factors for 100 gig, right? And a lot of this stuff sometimes doesn't even come from the Arista site. I mean, it's in there, but I mean, I'll have to dig it up if you guys want to read more about that. Maybe for a future meetup, I'll do that. But anyway, this is the agenda based off of this right here, right? So what's EOS? Basic switch, basic configuration of the switch, right? So a lot of the stuff just in the interest of time, I may not get to touch. Switch maintenance, A-boot. The A-boot I definitely want to cover with you guys because it's unique to Arista. A ZTP, how does it work? What it is? That's interesting to get working. XMPP, I'm just going to briefly talk to. I don't have an XMPP server, so we're not going to be able to do that tonight. MLAG, we'll definitely go over MLAG. This is basically like a VPC or a VSS in the Cisco world. VXLAN, I definitely want to go over tonight. If you guys read anything recent in the in like network world or computer world or whatever, everybody talks about VXLAN, including Cisco. So I definitely want to touch on that tonight. This a little bit I'll talk to. I mean, we all know SNMP and TCP dump. I mean, it's kind of boring. We all know this stuff. But this stuff I do want to talk about. The AEM, CLI scheduler, the event monitor, LANs. VM tracer I'll talk to. I'll do have the talking points and the configuration for this as well. This I might kind of skip around. I'll talk a little about agile ports, TAPAG mode, which is interesting, and EAPI. We'll definitely talk about. So this is a small section I was talking to you guys earlier today of what how to use Python and script against the Arista switch. All right. All right. So let me pull this over here. So what I have here in the background, I do have some VirtualBox instances working in the background. So what I did was follow Gary's Donahue's blog post here. So if you guys haven't seen it, I know it's dug in here somewhere. He'll show you step by step how to set this up in VirtualBox. Basically, 3-switch topology here. And I don't have a connection or a management connection out to the internet. I do have it just local on my Windows box here, but I don't care for internet connectivity. And then he also goes over how to, and where I think he has a chart here. Yeah, he goes over basically on the three VOSs, which adapter connects to what. One thing that I do want to show you guys, because I was a little confused about it myself in the beginning, when you add these network cards and you want to add a internal network, so he specifies, to connect between the different switches. Go to internal network, and then you wondering, oh, where do I actually add, an internal network? You usually just type and then hit OK. That's adding an internal network in VirtualBox. So so I have these all up and running. They're all connected to each other. I'm not gonna spend time on that tonight with that. And then I just have a secure CRT connection to all these guys. So it's the naming here is a little off, but it's 1, 2, and 3, right? So hopefully you guys can see. Can you guys see the? Can you guys see that okay, or do you need to make it bigger?
It's fine for me.
Okay. All right. No one else is complaining, so I guess it's good. Um, all right. So the first thing I want to do here, you can see here, just some quick basic commands here. As you notice, same thing like a Cisco switch. This is one of the biggest things that most people that I talk to when they first jump on, and I'll blow this up. I'll blow this up big. One thing you'll notice when you jump on it over here, um, very similar to a Cisco switch. I mean, if I told you this was a Cisco switch, you guys would probably believe me for a split second here. Um, a lot of the same commands. If I want to configure BGP, for example, router BGP, what's the AS number? You know. Oh, one thing here, IP routing. You have to enable IP routing on here. Hopefully that's a test question because I'll ace it. um, and then you have the same exact commands here, right? So the one little thing that's a little bit different here is you have this little kind of, management section down here. But we can make our VRFs, we have our timers, we can do shutdown and neighbor, our network statement, our neighbor statement. Everything here is very similar, right, than what we're used to with the Cisco switch, for example, right? Show CDP, of course, we don't have show CDP being that there's no Cisco switch. This ain't no Cisco switch, so we'll have LDP instead. So if I do show LDP neighbors, you can see here, and this is a good test just to kind of show if you actually, have connectivity between your three switches, right? So my Ethernet 2 is connected into VOS2 on its Ethernet 2 port. One thing also to note with the management port, and let me bring up this guy here. The first network adapter, and this is always, by design. Remember I showed you guys that PDF, and I showed you here's the console port and here's the management port. Being that I believe almost every Arista switch, if not all of them, come with a built-in management port. So adapter 1 by default is always going to be management. So if I, went in here and unchecked all these enabled network adapters, you'll always have at least management 1 here. So if you do a show run, right, you can see that I did, just description tests, whatever. I gave it an IP address. This is how I'm talking to it using CRT. I'm just doing an SSH session to this box, and then you have your Ethernet interfaces here, right? We'll get into this when we get into the EAPI section. This new section here, EAPI. And actually, I could talk to it right now real quick because it's not too too long. But for the test exam, basically this is where you can enable your telnet or SSH. This is basically management to the box. XMPP, this is when you're going to do your multi CLI switch. This is like a chat. You can chat to your switches. API. So this is what we're talking about. We actually want to turn on the API for the switch. Right? HTTP commands. Right? And then I can blow this up here, and I can specify the. At this point, you can just do a no shut. Right? And that's just going to turn on the EAPI. So if I go to this IP address here, and being it's on my local machine, I can connect to it. I don't have a certificate, so right, and I'm just going to put in my password local. Whoops. Right. So I'm in here, and one thing with this is that you are cached. So if you need to put in another password in here, unfortunately, as of right now, you have to blow out your cookies or use a different browser. But this is the command GUI that I was talking to you guys before, where you can type in here, let's say show, let's say I don't know, let's say extensions. Let's add another command in here. Let's say show version, if you like. What type do you want? How do you want that request to get replied back? JSON. Hit submit post request, and then you can see here what comes back on the switch. Now this is nice because this is a nice GUI format. Usually what you'll do is that you'll actually go into the switch here, and then you'll manually type these commands in here to get this information back. This is just a nice way to kind of test it, a nice friendly GUI way to test it and make sure it's actually working before you get into the CLI. There's also in here, if you click overview, there's the command API is easy to use, right? So they have like a test script here that you can do to pull information from the Arista switch, and it shows you here how to configure it as well. And there's some extra stuff down here as well, which I'm not going to get into today, but this is a very basic script here, which we could do right now. Why not? So let me jump to this switch. And one thing that's cool with this, and I know the Cisco Nexus has this functionality right now, but from my understanding, it's a read-only, or it's a user space. The nice thing with the Arista switch is that it's actually built off of a unmodified Fedora Linux kernel. So this whole CLI is not the real Arista switch. Mine is. I'm not going to show you guys a bunch of PowerPoint docs or whatever. But if you type in bash here, you can see here I'm now in a. You can see here I'm in a Linux shell over here. So one cool thing with this here is that this is actually a Linux server. So you can install your extensions, you can install your RPM packages, you can run your TCP dump. So if I do TCP dump, right, it's gonna sit here, and there's no real traffic going on in here right now, so nothing's really gonna happen. But it's pretty cool. You can type in help, But so any kind of Linux commands that you guys are very familiar with. Let me blow this up because I could see this getting longer. Any type of Linux commands you normally type on a Linux server or Linux box, you can type in here as well. Also, let me jump back to the CLI. And that's another cool thing too. You can actually jump between the different versions. So if you want to, for us, we're all for the most part network engineers. I'm familiar with the CLI world, config T, router, blah 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 blah. I'm comfortable in that world, but for some people, they're comfortable. Like we have a lot of scripters and developers in the company. They're more comfortable sitting in this world, right? PWD. Let me jump back. PWD home. Now you can do ls-al. You can see your permissions for this particular directory or this particular user directory here. Who owns it? What's the group? The date? Now, one cool thing with this, and I want to mention also, is that you can run commands on the fly, or CLI commands. So if I want to type in fast CLI, and hopefully I memorize this, show interface status, you can actually run. Oof, good. So I'm sure it's gonna be a test question too. You can actually run on while you're in the bash shell. You can run CLI commands that we're used to. All right, so you can see here I did a show in status, and notice it's actually the shorthand. I didn't have to type it the whole interface. And I have to type the whole thing out. And you can type in your CLI commands if if you memorize that, you're more comfortable with that. One thing I want to show here though is show directory. I don't. Hold on a second. Directory. Oh, let me go back into bash. And notice it memorized my my history. This is buffered, right? So if I reset the switch, that's gonna erase it. But I can do directory here. Oh, I guess I was wrong. I gotta verify if that's a invalid input. All right. Well, let me show you what I was trying to get to. Directory, right? And let me actually make a. I do have a real switches that I can mess with. I just gotta jump on my laptop because I have a VPN to it. I just want to make sure if this is if this is a VOS issue or not. All right, so I'm just gonna put that there. But so this command here, so you're probably one thing that you also want to know, and you'll get used to on the Arista switches, is that even though we have a flash directory here, being that it is Linux, we have to actually map it somewhere in the Linux world. So if I go to bash, and actually, before I do that, bash, you can actually run bash commands from the CLI too. So you can go vice versa. So you can do bash, let's say lsal. Oh, let me do this first. cd mount flash, right, and then bash ls. Right, so you can actually run, and once again, I'm in the CLI that we're used to, right? But using if you put the bash command in front of a Linux command, you can actually, and I probably could have done this in one command, but point being is that you can run your Linux commands while you're in bash, right? And you can see here that the flash directory actually lives in mount flash, right? So if you want to, this is the CLI, what we're used to, seeing in the CLI for, we're used to seeing this, for years and years on the Cisco's. But this is actually the parameters. This is the actual parameters here of what you'll see if you do this in the Linux world. All right. Oh yeah, that's my cuckoo clock. It's the top of the hour. Also, one thing too that I want to mention, and I just want to Arista Python script location. I know it's in the Arista Warrior book, and give me a second because I want to show you guys this. So I do have a PDF copy of this. Hint, hint. Anyway, if you go to, there's a Python chapter here, and if you go to this directory here, you can actually see. So the CLI is written all in Python. So if you actually want to customize the script, if you want to, here you go. If you want to customize the script, or if you want to make tweaks to the CLI, you can actually customize it and make it, right? So let me bring this here. So if let me drop into bash, right? Let me go to cd. Where am I right now? Okay, I'm at home directory. So if I go to cd user lib Python 2.7. I mean, as you can see, the book is saying 2.6 just because the book's a couple years old. Site packages, CLI plugin, right? And let me do a ls-al, right? And you can see a bunch of commands here. Basically a bunch of Python commands here, right? So all this is when you guys type in something in the CLI world, it'll reference and it buffered off. But you can see here, let's see something that we can take a look at. Something simple. Let's say IP address, right? So if I want to look at this guy here, I could do a more, right? And I'm not a Pythonista whatsoever, so I'm not even going to pretend to try to read any of this stuff, but it is a pretty long, as you can see, a pretty long Python script here. But the nice thing, once again, I mean, this is more for like the DevOps and the developers and whatnot. They can come in here and you can kind of, once again, tweak the EOS to your fitting, right? And sorry, Cyrus, I'm just seeing your messages here. Not 3. Yeah, so one thing that you'll notice too, a lot of the developers out there, they still work in 2.7. They don't really work in 3 yet. 3 is a big jump. So it's I'm assuming it is probably coming version 3, but it's not there yet. Everything's still in 2. All right, so let me jump out of here. Also, one thing too that I want to show, and let me jump to this here. So we're in this section here right now, the CLI and the bash. I'm explaining that piece here. One thing that I want to show here also along with that is the, let's say if I do a show run Once again, you don't need the do command. It's funny when I jump on an old 6500 and I forget you have to do. If I pipe it, a question mark, you can see, and this is something that the Nexus line has now as well. But you have a couple extra features here, like the redirect, the section. You can write in JSON format. This is a pretty cool command. So if I do JSON, right, you can see here the actual command. So if I did a show version pipe JSON, you'll see the actual output. This is basically the CLI version of what the GUI is, of what I showed you guys earlier today. Being that this is a virtual image, I'm not going to see any serial number here, right? But if I do like a show LDP neighbor JSON, you can see the what will be returned, right? So I have my VOS1 to, 2 here. So one, and I have 2 links, right? So if I do show LDP neighbor, this is the JSON format, and then this is the CLI format, right? And I have basically 2 connections to my VUS2 device over here. Oops, I mean this guy here. Right. So let's see, what else can I show you guys here? Oh, there's a cool Linux command here that I want to show you guys. So you can actually push in here Linux commands as well. So there's one command here, a watch command. And this is something that if you type in question mark, it sometimes does help you. Watch diff. And I'm not going to get into like what each Linux command does, but these are, if you do this on a Linux box, it'll work. And command. So if I do, for example, show LDP neighbor, actually, let me do it. Let me show interface MA1, for example. And I know it might be kind of hard to see maybe in the window there, but you see the bold here. Instead of hitting the up arrow, up, enter, up, enter, up, enter, and this runs every 2 seconds. You can see for every 2 seconds, show into this is the command that I'm running, and show me the diff of that command, and you can see here the time. And anything that changes is bolded here. If you do this on a Mac machine, it will actually be highlighted. But this is a nice here, so you can actually see the counter incrementing here slowly, right? So we have 1077, 1078. This is really, really helpful, especially if you're, once again, I mean, we're all, I think for the most part, experienced engineers here, right? How many times you have to hit up, enter, waiting for, an adjacency, a neighbor adjacency to come up. A simple command like watch diff, you can just basically see that command pop up without you having to constantly hit, the up arrow, right? So that's a pretty cool command there. You could also do grep commands. So let's say show logging, right? Same thing like the Cisco, right? Or at least the Nexus. So let's say in the last 5 minutes, days, hours, let's say last 5 minutes, oops, minutes. I want to see everything. Do I want to see maybe only the errors? Do I want to see the warnings? Can I stack them? Apparently not. All right. So the errors, right? And there are no errors right now. So let me do, let's say informational, nothing. Well, let me see if there's anything. Okay, so there's a single log in there right now, right? Apparently nothing has really happened on this switch. Let me do eth1. Let me do a shut on this guy. And I actually, just out of curiosity, I haven't tried this yet. Let me see if there's a logging synchronous. Okay, so we do have logging synchronous. Do you guys remember the command where you can see the console messages on your SSH session? I think it's monitor. I forget exactly the command. You can see the buffer. Like if I come over here, I don't know. I'm not sure if it'll actually generate a syslog message for that. Shut, no shut. So we do show log. All right, so there is a spanning tree change here, right? So if I do show spanning tree, yeah, you can see here everything's pretty much the same what you see on a regular Cisco switch here. One thing with this too is that you could do show logging. Let's say if you want to look for a certain, you could use the I command, of course. You could use the include, but you could also use a Linux command grep, right? So if you want to grep for, let's say, spanning tree, you can filter it using that as well. There's also a cool command here that you could send. So if I want to send log, so if you want to send a certain, if you want to manually inject a log into a clear more new, no new, I forget. It's like monitor terminal or terminal monitor or something. I forget the command that you can look at syslogs on your SSH session or console messages on your SSH session. I forget the command, um, but yeah. So over here you can send a manual syslog. So let's say you're starting a maintenance window, and this is especially helpful if you're gonna send this out to a syslog server somewhere. You can manually say message, let's say starting window or something, right? And then you gotta, shut this guy down. Let's say I'm gonna do my changes or whatever. Let's say I'm gonna do spanning tree. I don't know, VLAN. No, let's do cost 10. I don't know, something like that, right? And then do a no shut, right? So you can see the cost has changed for that interface. Let me see, did that do anything for my logs? Yeah, discarding to learn, discarding to learning. Okay, so I have all these logs generated, right? And let's say I want to say stopping window, let's say, right? If I want to manually send the log in here, right? So now what I can do if yeah, terminal monitor, that's what it was. Terminal monitor. Beautiful. Thanks, Anuj. So, so what you could do now is if I actually take a look at the logs, and it might be a little bit dirty to see here in the CLI, but if you're doing a collector, you could actually filter on a certain time or date, which you could actually do here too, I believe. Time range, right? So if I said, you could filter from so and so time to so and so date. Being that we just did this right now, I'll say, the last 5 minutes, right? And I'll blow this up here so you can see better. Right, you can see here that I'm starting the window, right? I made some changes over here, and then, oh no, here, starting the window, right? And then I made my changes in the middle here, and then I stopped it right here. So you can kind of give yourself like a bookmark to see, when you did certain changes or when you didn't do certain changes, which is pretty helpful. By default, you can see it's a level 6, but you could also toggle that too if you want. You can do send log level. You could pick 0 all the way to 7, right? So you could say like 7, and then type your starting window or something, right? A message starting window. So that's one cool thing that makes it stand out. Let's see. Let me jump into the bash also. One thing I want to show you guys is the top. So top is going to be your if you do any kind of Linux training, you'll memorize or you'll come to learn that there's a top command. This is basically like a task manager in the Windows world. One thing or a couple things here that I want to point out. I think it's Control C. You can Control M. Control M. You could shift around the different P for process. If you do like a Shift P or Shift N, you can kind of filter or like you can change the type of I guess what you want to see here in the top command here. But one thing that I want to show you guys here is so like Python's running here. If you want to kill that particular process, you can type let's say kill. Oops. Yeah, I know it's not valid. Kill. Oh, I actually don't have to. So if it does type in a number, what is Python here? Or like spanning tree. If I want to kill spanning tree, where'd it go? Spanning tree disappeared. So let's say the CLI. If I want to blow the CLI, 3228. Oh, so you just type the K. So if you guys are doing this on your at home, you type the K. Let's say I want to kill what process? Let's say the adjust command, that top one, 1498. Let's see what that does. Kill it. not permitted. Let me go into root. Let me see if that makes a difference. All right, so I'm in bash now. Sudo su, and let me do a top command again. K, and let me try to kill. I'm not sure even what that process is. ETBA. Let me do 778. Okay, yeah. So I had to su into root, and it killed that particular process. There's an LDP agent here, which went away really fast. I think there's probably a way you can search for processes here. I'd be surprised if there wasn't. It's still on the top of my head to actually kill a particular process. So if you're looking for spanning tree, for example, or sysdb, this is one thing here too I want to show you guys. 1608. So just memorize that for now, right? 1608. So sysdb is actually the concept of EOS that we have a sysdb, which is our database of all the processes or all the agents. So all the processes, and these are basically all processes here. The state or the last known good state gets saved to the sysdb. So if I want to kill the CLI right now, let's say 3522. So I do K 3522. I just killed it. Now if I jump into right, so it basically resetted the CLI process. So now if I hit exit to go back into the CLI, it's basically prompting me to get into SSH. Right? So it terminated my process here. Bash top. So if I want to kill the sysdb, this is one thing that you can do. You'll basically restart the switch if I kill that process. So if I do K, that process ID is 1608. I gotta be root user. And it's who am I? So I'm the root user right there. Let me do top kill, and it's a sysdb process which is gonna reset the switch. 1608. Whoops. 1608, and you can see here that I just rebooted. Whoops, it just kicked me off of the console here. Right, and just reset the switch here. So that's some kind of cool things here. It's just like a and actually it's so just like a Linux server is what I'm trying to get at here. Whoop. Yeah, now it's really messed up. So obviously, don't do this in production. Don't start killing processes randomly like I'm showing you guys here tonight. It'll mess your switch up here. So let's say, and this actually kind of is a nice way to segue. So I want to let me get into a boot here. Unless you guys have any other questions with the CLI. I think I showed you enough of the CLI here. So now that I kind of still not responding. Okay, so apparently I seem to have messed it up. So let me get to boot real quick. A couple boot commands, or basically this is like the equivalent of like the Ramon. So let's say if I reboot my switch. And while it's rebooting, you got to see here, press Control C to enter boot shell. So if you hit Control C, this is basically a lower level of Ramon. So if you type in help, you can see a couple help commands in here. Notice a lot of this stuff is Linux commands. Once again, it does help to learn Linux or know Linux. So and this is also helpful too if you're going to be doing password recovery. So if you want to do, let's say I forgot the password, right, for my switch or something, I can go into, once again, let me do pwd. I'm in the root, right? So if I remember where my flash is, not flash, right? Let me do an ls. So I can see there the startup configuration. I could also see my VEOS image. I can see the boot config. So if I do a more on that boot config, you can see here that and this is if you want to change the, let's say the image got corrupted or something. You want to change it to, let's say, a different code version. You can type in vi boot config, right? And you can go in here and you can manually change what the switch will boot up with. if you're gonna, let's say once again the image gets corrupted or something, right? Um, let's see. But let's say you forgot the password. I can do a VI on that startup config, and surprise, surprise, this is basically the the show run, right? So if you wanted to go ahead and let's say change the password, you can. We're in. I'm in the command mode. So if I hit DD twice on a line, DD, it completely removes the line. So if I do DD, it removes that line completely. And this is even good too. I mean, if you want to change the IP address of your management port, you go right ahead. You can do it here. But in this case, I mean, the show run is good, so I'm not going to touch it. But whoops, right? So that's just one way that you can actually edit the configuration, right? Once again, if you kind of lock yourself out of the switch or something, you can do that. There's also a secret command, I guess you could say, of a full recovery. So this is basically I'm going to completely blow out everything in the flash and start from scratch. So there's a hidden command or a hidden file in the flash directory. And I'm not going to do it, but I don't think it shows. Yeah, it doesn't show it. There's a hidden bin file or swig file that's on the Arista switch. So if you blow out the entire contents of the flash, it'll boot up in like a really old image, like 4.2 or 4.13 or something, to get you up and working. All right. In my case, I'm not going to do it because I don't have to, but I just want to show you guys that command. Let me see. Am I missing? Just going through my book over here. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. All right. So let me hit exit to get out of here. Let me just do the help command one more time. You guys can see a couple things here. You can copy some configuration here. There's a SCP. You can copy as well. You can CD. The regular stuff you would do on a Linux box. Once again, this is why I always stress, learn Linux because it definitely will help, especially if you're going to jump on the Aristas. All right. So while that's loading, let me jump on this switch that I know is working. Oh, this is a nice command. So show logging follow. Right. So as logs get added to the buffer, it'll automatically get shown on your screen here. Which once this switch completely boots up, we'll see probably some commands get added on here. Right. But so when you see command changes happen here, so let's say if I go on this guy, let's go to if2. Let me do a shut. Right. Let me do shut. And I don't know if you guys saw that real quick, but it basically added this. Here you go. So because I did a shut on a downstream switch, you can see the log add or refresh itself automatically, right? Which is nice. So if I come down here and do a no shut, quickly jump here to the adjacent switch, and you can see here LLDP is kicking in, and eventually spanning tree will kick in as well. Right. So that's another cool command to know here. The show logging, right? Following. Okay, so I talked about these guys. Upgrading the EOS. So this is pretty straightforward, and let me just make sure this properly booted. Okay, so that's good. Disconnect. Okay. So there's two ways to do it. How to upgrade the Arista switch, very similar to once again what you do on a Cisco. You could do show boot config, right? And you can see here what image are you pointing to. This is the same thing that I showed you guys when we were in a boot. If you want to point into a different image, you could also, very similar to the Cisco, you can set a Raman password. So you could put that in there as well if you want to do that. I think it's is it a boot? No. There's a way you can protect the back to my notes here. Oh, yeah. Boot console, right? Speed, you can change the speed, the baud rate, right? So this is like your 9600 by default, right? There's also a boot secret. So if you want to specify a password to get into Ramon, or the A boot, you know, you can put that in here as well. I'm not going to do it obviously right now. That's another feature here, right? But in the same way that we would do in a Cisco box, we do boot system, right? Flash, and then you basically point, you know, and then you know just say you know which image you would like to point to. One thing that also I want to show, right? And you don't see it here because obviously being virtual, you don't see that. But I made a blog post of how to upgrade the Arista switch recently. And one cool thing is that I think all the Arista switches, if not most of them, come with a USB flash drive slot. So you can actually do a copy like a USB one slash, you know, new image dot swig or whatever, and put it to flash. Right. Obviously, it's not going to work because it's a virtual image. But that's a cool thing too, that you can actually use the USB slot to upgrade the switch, or just copy files, right? So if you're going to copy a bunch of Python scripts or syslog or whatever, you can just dump it on a switch, right? I mean, dump it on the USB slot. Same way you can go in here if you go into the bash world, you just use the copy command, right? So if you need to copy, you know, you would say copy source to destination, or source directory to destination directory, right? So it'd be like copy R, because R you want to do recursive. I want to copy everything um, in those folders, right? So let's say I'm going to copy everything in the mount flash, right? And then I want to back it up to, and then you put in here mount USB 1, right? And then you would copy that over. Right now I have to do sudo su. Once again, this is where, and I've been talking about it at many meetups, right? Again, there's no space left because there's no, there is no such thing as a USB slot. But you can see here that it would attempt then to copy all the files over to a USB slot, right? This is why I've been talking for like a good year and change already of pick up these Linux commands, at least the basics, because it'll definitely help you on the Aristas, and not just the Aristas. Once again, I mean, Cisco is jumping on board with the same story too now. All right. But yeah, so once again, you can do your config T, boot system, and then you know pick the image, right? I mean, nothing fancy there, right? All right, so I'll do. That's the high level of that. EOS architecture, I kind of already talked about the concept of sysdb. I mean, minus me having a whiteboard, it's kind of hard to explain to you guys. But I kind of showed you guys a little bit of it with the bash top command. That if I kill, where is sysdb? It's in here. Here, sysdb. If I kill this particular process, it'll actually reboot the switch, which we kind of saw earlier today. There's also the EOS agent monitor. So this monitors the status of all the processes or all the agents on the switch. So if a process like, for example, STP, we did see it before, but I don't see it in this diagram anymore, or this list anymore. But if you want to kill a particular process like spanning tree or routing or you know, an LED light or something, if you know what the process name is or the process ID, you can kill that process. That's kind of like where EOS is different, you know, under the hood. For a regular engineer, you know, for all we know, it just looks like a regular CLI, right? But as we saw, you know, there is a directory, right, of where that, and actually I should probably memorize this for the test, where the Python scripts or the CLI scripts are kept. So once again, all this is written in Python. All right, so let me kill that. Let me just skip ZTP real quick. Let me just get into MLAG because I want to show you guys actually how to configure that multi-link link ag. So this stands for, this is basically our version of VPC or VSS. It's a multi-link lag or aggregator, right? So if I come over here, once again, if you guys go into EOS Central, there's already a blog post here of how to set it up, right? And if you actually continue searching the EOS, you can see here there's an advanced configuration. I forgot to put the password here, but you can actually do active router redundancy using VARP, or this is kind of like our HSRP or VRP. The main difference between VARP or virtual ARP compared to HSRP and VRP is that VARP is an active, right? So you can see here that you know ARP and let me blow this up. ARP and HSRP is going to be your, there's always one primary and always one secondary. I believe GLBP, the Cisco implementation, has the active, but obviously that's a Cisco, technology. But with VARP, you could actually have both switches talking. So this way you're not, when we create the MLAG peer, I don't know why it's doing that. When we have the MLAG set up here, that we don't want any traffic going over that peer link. Same way that you have like in a VPC topology, you try not to have any data plane traffic going between those two switches. You'll configure VARP, which is a very simple configuration. You can see here, 2 commands, right, to configure that, and we'll configure that today. Right, so there's a bunch of stuff here. Like someone was asking about priorities. We don't have actually priorities. It's the lowest MAC address becomes the primary, or the primary for a spanning tree, minus putting VARP in. I guess I have to add. Let me see, what did I have here? But anyway, but the whole thing is that if you actually look on the EOS Central, you'll see a lot of these documents here and a lot of these right, a lot of these docs and blogs here, right? So let me show that configuration real quick to set that up, and I'm going to actually base it off of this document here. So I'm going to post that in the chat window so you guys can see that. But I've done it a bunch of times, so I've kind of memorized most of it already. So one thing that I want to show you before we do that is that access list. So by default, we have some, and this is basically COP, or the control plane policing, so we don't overload our switch. And you can see here that, and the document shows here as well, that we're gonna allow this MLAG to reach the control plane. So if you come, and instead of going through this whole entire thing, what you could also try doing is MLAG. And you can see that the statements in there that allow that MLAG traffic to pass between the two switches here. So hopefully they ask me a test question on that, because then I'll know. But the first thing is, of course, make a port channel. So same way that you would do on a Cisco or Nexus, at least, show port channel summary. So I have 2. Old habits die hard. Paper. I got 2 interfaces, Ethernet 1, which I believe I have it shut down. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it there. Show interface status connected. Okay, so I should have, in my topology at least, I have Ethernet 1, Ethernet 2 going to my VOS2, which it appears I don't have. But regardless, either way, let me put these 2 ports in a port channel. So same way you do on a channel group 10 mode active, same way you would do it, nothing crazy here, right? Switch port mode trunk, right? I'll do the same thing on the other side. Mode active. I'm gonna make that a trunk, right? So that's gonna be my pure link between the 2 switches. All right, so if I come over here, show port channel summary, right? And there's a couple different flags here. So the ETH1 is G minus out of sync. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with that first link here for some reason, but the port channel is up, right? Right, so I do have that piece over here, right? And there's one difference here, different from the Cisco, is that we have a concept of a trunk group. Basically, and it talks you down here what the trunk group is. But basically, the trunk group is if you specify a VLAN to become to be a trunk group. So if I say mlag peer for VLAN 4094, this is kind of like a failsafe. So if I apply to, let's say, if I try to apply it to port channel 20, for example, and if I didn't specify the trunk group, then VLAN 4094 would not pass on that trunk. This is basically just to verify or just to make sure that this 4094 is going to be for our MLAG communication only in this case, and it will only pass through this port channel 10 that that we have between the two switches, right? So if I do, I'll cheat a little bit. So what we can do is do VLAN 4094 trunk group, and I'll say meetup, right? And we'll test this out because I actually haven't tested it out yet. In PO10, and we're going to tie this VLAN to this port channel trunk group. Switch port trunk group meetup. All right, so we're tying that VLAN to that trunk, right? Exit, and then we're going to turn off spanning tree on that trunk group because it's basically a point to point. I really don't care about spanning tree at that point. I mean, you don't have to, but you know, it's in documentation. Basically just to turn off because I want to pass all that traffic between the two switches. All right, so I'll come here and I'll do the same thing. Trunk group meetup in PO10 since I made PO10. Cool. So let me just see port channel. So still up, so that's good, right? Next, we're going to make the SVI because same thing with the Nexus. We're going to have to point it to an IP address to actually bring up that MLAG, right? So on both ends, I'll make an SVI for this, right? And I'll come here, and this is really the big thing when you're trying to bring this up. Make sure that you can ping the two ends before you try to do the before you try to get to this part, before you try to get to the MLAG configuration portion. And right. So let me try to do a ping. Hopefully this works. Oh, that sucks. Let's see here. So let me do a section mlag. Let me do this here. Actually, I can see everything in one view here. So we did the trunk group here, active. We created this here. We turn this off. Let me make sure I turn that on. IP routing. $40.94. Let me try that again. And that stops the lab. No. And let me just make sure I have everything working here fine. Int 1. All right, that's wrong. That's one thing that's wrong. Int 2. Int 2. All right. Okay, now it's seeing it. I don't know if that would fix the issue. Just let me know if you guys can ping between the two sides on your machines. You can, okay. All right, let's see. Did I miss any? I don't think I missed any steps. I mean, it's relatively straightforward. ETH1, 2. Oh, I added these. Oh, I'm missing PO10s. Okay, so let me try it again. There we go. Okay, so I had the trunk command on the interfaces, not on the not on the port channel. Okay, so once you get to this point, now you can actually get into the MI configuration here. All right, so I'll do MI configuration, right? And if you guys ever configured the VPC, you'll see here that it's very similar, right? So you'll do your local interface. It's kind of like a source interface where you're sourcing this from, and we already said we're going to be using our SVI peer address, and this is why you want to make sure you can ping the other end, because if you can't, it's not going to come up in the first place. I'm also going to specify which link or this port channel that I'm going to use between the two sides, which we said is going to be PO10, and then we're going to use our domain ID, which I'll also call meetup. Well, we'll say MI test, let's say, right? This is the same thing like the VPC domain in the Cisco world, right? So while I have that, I'll actually bring this up here, the console, and I'll do a watch diff on show mlag, because I want to see it actually, we can see it come up when I configure this side. So I'll do mlag, domain is meetup test, right, local interface, peer link, PO10, peer addresses, right? And then we could do the same thing, watch diff show mlag. So you can see on the left here, it says negotiation size is trying to connect. You can see here it learned the IP address of the other side. Trying to connect. Let's see, did I miss anything? So meetup test, pure link PO10. This should be relatively the same on this side as well. Oh, here we go. So I had mlag test and I had meetup test here. And just out of curiosity, I want to see if there's any debug commands for mlag. I don't think there's any specific ones. Or we could take a look at the log. Let's see, is there anything in here that would say? And so you can see it's starting the process, but it's not saying anything about the mlag being, the name being off. So let me change it in here. Mlag test. So they're both mlag test. Has everyone gotten up on their end?
Okay. So you're asking about if you have us running.
Yeah, if you have the mlag up on your ends. If you guys are following along, that is.
I'm following along, but I have not got I've not gotten this far yet.
Gotcha. It's taking pretty long to come up. Of course, when I do the demo, of course, that's when it doesn't work, right? Four ninety two, mlag test, mlag test. Now let me do a write mem. Let me do a reload of this guy. Oh, are you kidding me? I was on the same. Let me do a write mem here. Reload this guy too. All right, I'll bring these two guys here. And this takes maybe like a minute or two to come up. What are the
Um,
one of
that
this?
took a while.
this trunk command is messing it up somehow. I don't think it would, but okay, that's weird. So I did a reboot and it's up. All right, now it's showing as active. I'm not sure what happened. I blame the VOS. I've always had issues with the virtual image when I try to do mlag. Um, that's why I figured just do a reboot. Okay, cool. So we got, all right, so finally got the mlag up, right? So a couple commands here that we can do. As if most commands, there's always a detail command or a verbose command. Mlag has the same exact thing, so we can see here who's the primary, state changes, how long it's been up for, a bunch of other stuff in here as well, right? We also have, if you guys are familiar with like the VPC in the Nexus world, we have orphan ports. We also have kind of the same concept here. We have like active partial, which is if you're only connected to a single port, like if you're not dual home, for example, or you can have active fulls if you have a port channel going between, like if you have in this picture here, like if you have, this guy here, if you have a host connected to both switches, then you're considered active full. If you only have one link, only one link and not the other one, you're considered active partial. So like I can test that with this image or this VOS. I have the similar topology as Gary does. So I have this guy's connected to. I got one link going to the first switch and one link going to the second switch. So what I can do here is actually from pretending this is like a host. I can say PO3, for example, channel group. Whoops, wrong way. So I can say config int eth1 to 2, right? I can say channel group 3 mode active, right? Now, if I come to now trying to basically have a channel group go into both switches. So if I come to VOS here, what I can do is create a VPC port channel. I forget what they call it in the Cisco world, but basically you make a port channel to make it look like on both switches going down to the same host, right? So what you could do is same deal. I will do actually in this case ETH3, I think it is on this switch. Yeah, E3. E3 is going down, so I'll do channel group 3 mode active, and I believe there's an mlag command in here. Yeah, mlag 3. All right, now I got cheat again. So come down. Oh, I do on the port channel level. So MPO3 mlag. So I'll make that mlag 3. Now it doesn't have to match the PO. It just makes it easier if you just match the mlag number to the PO the port channel number, right? And then I'll do the same thing on this switch as well. Right, so I can see that it's up right now, right? And notice before I had nobody, I had all zeros here. So now if I do show mlag again, you can see that there's an active full because I have one mlag port channel going down to that switch, or yeah, to the switch, right? So this switch, there's no mlag configuration whatsoever, right? It just sees that it just thinks it's a regular port channel, right? So this could be, I mean, in this case it's just a switch, right? But in this case it's a switch, but this could easily be a server or a host or something. Right. A couple other mlag commands, interfaces. You can see what interfaces are part of that particular MLAG ports. So you can see here once again, MLAG 3, the members, right, of that interface or of that MLAG ports. Let's see what else we got here. Show MLAG, detail, ISSU, warnings. So this is if you're gonna do this is kind of like a self check. So if you're gonna do an upgrade of one switch of the pair, and let's say you have a different version or the code is not going to work properly, this will kind of do some checks or some sanity checks before you actually upgrade the switch. So this is kind of nice. It kind of helps you with that, right? So it's just warnings, right? Also, another thing too, just because I memorized and saw this. These are Linux commands here. Once again, the redirects. So if I want to redirect this output of this to a file, let's say flash test.txt or something like that, right? So now if I do a more flash test.txt, you can see here that same command here, right? So that's kind of cool where you can and this is if you're gonna do, and I completely forgot this part. Out of the box, this is all right. So forget MLAG for a second. Show schedule summary. You could see here that this is the same thing like a cron job in the Linux world or a task scheduler in the Windows world. You can create jobs to run on your Arista switch, and you can customize it whenever you want. So, for example, here you can see here out of the box, and this is on all Arista switches. It will do every 60 seconds, and it'll save up to 100 copies, or whatever the space is on a switch. In this case, this is about 2 gigs on this particular VUS image. On a real switch, it's like 3 or 4 gigs of flash memory on a 1RU switch. But you can see here that out of the box, we already run this stuff. So the last time this ran was whatever this time is. So if you want to see that, there's a schedule directory. So I'll jump into bash for this actually because it'll be easier. See, mount flash schedule, right? And you can see here you have a directory called tech support because that's the job here, right? So you can see here that it'll save it to this location. And you can see here actually it's been doing a couple backups here. So you can see here there's a GZ. So this is the Linux gunzip, I think it is, or zipping for the for Linux. So I think you can also do a more on this. So you want to get like this one, for example. I think there was a cat. I know some gibberish. I know you have to like unzip it. I think it's or gunzip. I mean, there's a way you can unzip it, but I forget the command off the top of my head. But you could unzip it, or even better, you could email it to yourself from the switch. So if I come here, and you have to obviously configure this, right? But you do email, and you can actually set a email server. So let's say your Exchange server is 192.168, 100.100. I don't know, right? You authorize it. Username is, I don't know, Exchange. Password, or right. Password is test123. I don't know, right? What else? If you do TLS requirements, if you want to have that enabled, you can set that. And from user, so let's say this is going to be from me at nycnetworkers.com. So that's pretty cool. So now if you want to actually send that file, so if you want to do, let's see, directory, let's say the hello.py, it's just a little bit easier. Let's say it's email. What was that command again? Dir flash Give me a second. I know there's a way you could email it. Let me just look through my notes here. Give me a second, guys. Oh yeah, it's a pipe command. So let's say show tech. It doesn't show it in here, but you could email. And it's gonna fail, of course, because it's not going to anything. But having that I know it doesn't show it in here, but once you configure, yes, it's failed to send email. Network is unreachable. But you could actually send output over to an email address, which is pretty helpful, right?
Wow. Does it? Okay. 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 So sorry. I've asked that question. I was going to ask if it's just going to if it has a
Like
encryption.
so that's this command here, the required TLS.
Yeah, that's why I said I answered the question.
Yeah, yeah. So you can see here. I mean, there's not too many commands to configure the email on here. Um, cool. All right. Let's see. All right. So we did this piece here. All right. So let me just go over ZTP real quick. So what we can do is, well, first let me do this. Show run. All right. Let me just copy this because I know it's working. This is a good config here. All right. So if I do a erase, well, and let me do this in the console. This way we can actually see what's happening. Um, that was weird. It looks like the space is actually counted as a password for the username. So if I do actually an erase startup configuration here, where I confirm, let me just do a directory. Okay, good. All right, so we did our erase reload, right? Let's get erase the startup configuration. We reload this box, right? And I don't really care. Hit no, it doesn't matter because I erased it. So we should come up with a brand new box, basically, like out of the brand new out of the box, right? Now by default, what's going to happen is ZTP, known as zero touch provisioning. How do you spell that? Zero touch provisioning. So this is the same concept as like a Pixie boot for your Windows server. So instead of, so I mean, and this whole thing came about because I mean, Arista basically their bread and butter is the data center. So as you guys know, for the most part, data centers have remote hands. They don't really have the company's engineers on site. So when you have to deploy a bunch of switches or you have to do a replacement of a switch, you're not gonna, you're not. I mean, you could. I mean, you just spend a lot of time doing it. Basically, sending a guy over to the data center, get the blue console cable, copy and paste configuration, copy and paste this. It just takes it just takes way too much time. So what the cloud guys do is they call it a ZTP server, which Arista ZTP server. All right, so right now it's a GitHub, right? You can download for free off GitHub. We also have documentation. The latest is 1.4, it looks like. And once again, this is very and you can see here the whole setup, right? So this is like saying like really. So I guess I do have to save it, apparently. All right. So just like an IP phone or like a Windows box when it boots up for the first time, all the ports of the Arista switch are gonna blast out that I want an IP address. Same thing once again, like a DHCP on a desktop or an IP phone or something, and then it's gonna get from a ZTP server. I don't have one set up in this lab, so I can't show you guys, but um, you'll pre-configure on a Linux box this ZTP server, which I can do a meetup on this, sometime later. But this is a meetup in itself, just this one topic. But you can actually based on a MAC address. So if you go to installation, so you can here the system requirements. You download a ZTP server. All right. Um, Here's just a couple steps you do. wget, you unzip the tar file, you C to the ZTP server, um, right? And then you configure DHCP service because you're obviously going to be handing out scopes or IPs. So this would be the scope, right? Once again, this is all Linux based, and then you would start the DHCP service, right? A couple of examples. If you want a static, you could base it on a neighbor DB pattern, so like a LLDP neighborship. You can pull down a configuration, or you can set a static neighbor DB, and this is all scripting, right? So this is once again why I'm saying Linux and Python for since forever. um, why is this not? This should have erased it. Erase starter config. Right, reload. Yes. Oh, you know what? Even better. Because I just want to show you guys I'm just cloning one of these guys. Oh, I can't do logs on. I think I can. I gotta go through all this here. You gotta mess around with this to bring it up. What I want to show you guys is the actual ZTP. The ZTP prompts that you get. All right, so if I just go to the command guide while it's booting up here. Right, so you'll have to have one port that actually can connect to that DHCP server, right? And canceling zero touch. Why does this keep? You know what? In this case, I'm just reboot this guy. Reload. I'm going to use that full recovery command. I don't know why it's not blowing the config out. But you can see in the background over here, you'll when you bring up a box for the first time, you'll get this prompt that's saying that this device is going into ZTP mode. So it's actively looking for an IP address, and you won't be able to actually save any configuration on the box if it's in the ZTP mode. Oops. So you basically have two options. And let me just do a full recovery. Yes. It's erasing everything. So you mainly have two options. You'll have to basically cancel the ZTP mode, and then it'll reload the box for the first time, and then it'll come up, and then you'll be able to configure the switch normally. which I want to show you guys here. So you can see here, and this only happens if there's no startup configuration found. So to say set the cancel ZTP mode, log into the switch, right, with admin and type in zero touch cancel. The switch will immediately boot without installing a startup configuration, right? Let's see if there's anything else it says here about that. Okay, so that's done. So you can see here that it wrote a new EOS. Being it's virtual, it's not going to show you the code, but I think it's like 412 or something. Let me hit exit to reboot it. Look at the time, we're getting a little past 11. Let me just see what else we have to cover.
Yeah, it is getting.
Yeah, I'll just do, I'm gonna have to do a part two, looks like. Unless there's anything you guys want to see here real quick on the list here before I close it up.
Yeah, no, man. I was just overwhelmed that on the amount of like config information we need to know just to take the exam.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good and bad part about it is that, okay, here we go. This is what I'm looking. The good and bad part about it, and eventually you'll see it, the prompt. Um, the good and bad thing about it is that the test, if you're just going for the test, then you're gonna have to know the differences, which is this list here. Um, but if you're going to to just pick up on a Arista switch or a VOS switch, I mean, a lot of this stuff you don't need to know, but if you actually want to use it for what it's meant to be used for, that's why they all this everything here is listed here, right? Just for that purpose. Um, where is that message? Of course, on a real switch it works. I should be able to actually do, let's say, like config t or the BGP blah blah blah. This is good to know. Apparently, see, it shouldn't let you do that. It should say, and I got a real switch right next to me, but it's getting late. I wanted to show you guys that prompt. But what you're supposed to do is type in zero touch. Oh, you know what I probably did? I think I disabled it. So there's two commands that come with zero touch. So there's zero touch cancel, which will cancel it one time, right? And that reboot the switch. Or I can completely disable it by typing in disable. Right. So if you go here, there's it doesn't even show it, right? But you could disable it completely, so this way, no matter what happens, it'll never go into ZTP mode ever again, unless you enable it. And I want to say it's flash. There's like a ZTP file when you actually boot this. Let me see on this one if it has it. And I'll boot this up here. Enable. And set the switch. Erase startup config. Okay, so it's a config mode, zero touch. Enable. All right, let me see if I can do it here. I don't think it's extension. There's a file in here that you could actually edit the ZTP file. No, that's not it. Let me see. Hopefully this will load up, and then I'll. If this doesn't work, I'll call it a night after this. And so I'm taking the test tomorrow morning. So hopefully if all goes well, I'll pass it, and then I'll make a part 2 to cover the rest of these pieces here.
Well, you need to take your rest though.
Yeah, well, it's 10:30 tomorrow, so it's not too early. Yeah, it's not gonna let me do it because it sees zero touch enable. All right, I'll see what's going on with this. I'll try to fix this. But if you guys do on your switches, like if you guys have your own topology at home, you shouldn't have this because you would have never typed in disable. Like if I do disable here, of course it takes it. Right, but I want to enable it. Oh wait, there it is. Okay, so I deleted it. If I do more flash zero touch, so see disable set to true. So what you can do is you can either do zero touch enable. Okay, which doesn't like it. Let me do vi dash vi flash and set it to false. All right, so now if I do now set to false. So if I do a reload one more time. And by the way, for the recording, I'm going to skip a lot of the empty silence and stuff here, so this way you get a smaller file. Also, let me know if you guys want a copy of that Arista Warrior book. I can just email me directly, and I'll send it to you guys.
Cool.
Come on. Okay. I guess we'll call it night here, guys. Bash. And now it's completely empty. I'm not sure what's going on. I'll have to play with this more. But I guess we can call it a night here, guys. Is there anything else you guys want to see? Comments, questions before I kill the and I'll